Hello and welcome to the PC Gaming Vortex. My name is Hikaro and I am joined today by Gallows. This is our first episode on a new series we're starting called Need or Greed. For those of you that might not know, Need or Greed is a system in MMO gaming utilized for when loot drops. Basically the way it works is something that you would vote need on is something that you just have to have. This is something you're going to use right away. No question about it. Greed is something that has value to you. You wouldn't mind having it, but really isn't at the top of your priority list. It's much lower. So we're going to take that concept into the world of games. And we're actually going to take each game that we present, one that either myself brings to the table or Gallows brings to the table, or suggested by a viewer, and we're going to give it a need or a greed rating. Basically saying this is the game that I am going to buy right away because it is fantastic, or this is a game, I wouldn't mind having it, but I'm not really running out with my wallet open. So the first game we're going to do is Scrolls. Scrolls is one that Gallows brought to the table, and we're going to go ahead and jump right in on what Scrolls is all about. Scrolls is a collectible game. It costs $21, made by the creators of Minecraft, which is Mojang. It's a collectible card game with the added elements of a strategic board game where positioning and timing are just as important as the deck building. It's easy to learn, but it's definitely hard to master. So each player has 5 idols, one at the end of each row, and the first person to destroy 3 of their opponent's idols wins the match. Gameplay is a nice combination of summoning and placing units, structures, and casting spells, and working with the timing of all your cards in your deck to destroy 3 of your opponent's idols. So let's go over some of the pros and the cons that we feel Scroll has. So we'll start with pros, start with the good. Personally, I think that the art style of the game is fantastic. I think it's charming. I think that they did an excellent job of giving it its own flavor and its own flair. It's very unique, and I really enjoy it. I also like a couple of the concepts they utilize in the store. They have a concept where you can, every 3 days, they put up 6 cards, and it's kind of a random 6 cards, and you can purchase those 6 cards for gold. It's pretty cool. Gold is the in-game currency. They also utilize a full practice mode with AI opponents. I love that. I think it's fantastically done. How about you, Gallows? What are some of the pros you have for the Scrolls game?
Well, first off, one of the basic pros to this game is that, like you covered in the intro, it's very simple. It's simple and it's easy to pick up. It's not rule heavy. It's easy to learn the basics and to actually play the game. You play this game 1 or 2 times, you've got down pretty much everything you'll need to know. Now, of course, going into the more specifics and the complexity of the game, that's another one of those pros for it that I have, that mastering it and knowing what each card and the combinations that you can get into, that takes it to a whole new level. One of the other things that I think has a real pro feel to this game is that there's multi-layers of strategy, both in and out of the game. I think not only with the deck building aspect of out of the game, creating your deck, thinking, this is a concept I think would work and be neat, putting that actually into the game and knowing the complexity of how the units move and work and the countdowns and the cooldowns and things like that. The complexity is fully there. Another pro that I really love is that the graphics and the gameplay are both solid and very intuitive. I mean, a lot of the icons that come up for each card, once you click on them, it's very simple to grasp that, hey, this is something I want to do with the card. I want to cast it. I want to use it as a resource, draw new cards. The various things that you can do with each and everything, it's very intuitive. I think they did a good job with that. The deck building side and the menu system, I think it's easy to navigate. It's very responsive. I noticed that flowing in and out of the menus was very intuitive. Deck building was simple and yet still complex enough to where you could get what you need, but they didn't go overboard on it. So those are my key pros that I have for it, and I think that touching upon those things, that the pros in my instance probably outweigh a lot of the cons, but we can get into those in a second, I suppose.
Yeah, the pros are definitely a big part of this game. This game is really awesome. The one other pro that I had forgot to mention is actually there is a full set of scenarios in the game that allow you to go in under a specific set of circumstances against an AI opponent and try to beat this scenario. So whether you're coming back from behind or whatever it might be, they put it in there and they reward you with gold so you can get more cards. It's definitely another pro to the game. So cons-wise, the game does have some cons. In my opinion, I think the biggest con of the game is that starting out the game after it has released puts you at a bit of an uphill battle. And what I mean by that is, due to their microtransaction system and the fact that you cannot directly purchase packs for money, it's supposed to be all within the game to a certain extent, it does cause it to be very hard to build your collection fast enough to be competitive quickly. So it's going to take some work, a lot of playing AI opponents, and a lot of going through scenarios to really build up your collection. Of course, a lot of trading, because you can do that, to get to the point where you can really make a constructed deck that's competitive. So, but at the same time, while you're working on that, you're just getting better at the game, you're honing your skills, and you're learning more and more as you go. So by the time you do get to the point where you have all that, you have put some time into it. But that would be my major con for it. How about you, Gallows? What do you think con-wise?
I definitely agree with you. I think, especially for new players coming into the game after the game's been out, you're really behind the 8 ball in a lot of ways, because you're just straight up behind. And I know that they took the approach of they didn't want the pay to win mentality, but at the same respect, it does have a few negatives, and it does touch upon my cons. One, kind of delving in further to that aspect of not being able to actually buy packs, is that when you do start farming the cards for gold, whether it's doing scenarios, playing matches, things like that, you could be working towards buying a new pack or whatever, and it just doesn't allow you the ability to customize a variety, because you could be working on one single type of deck or one single type of card. That's not going to allow you to have the diversity to play other decks, so it might get a little stale at times. Working really hard to get one card, one thing that you may have the chance to get, it may be frustrating at times, and then you're not able to play another deck that you've kind of neglected for a while. So that's one of those things that, the pay to win, I understand, but it's not all perfect either. One of the other things that I definitely have as one of the cons is, although the responsiveness and gameplay are solid, the server stability has had a lot of issues, and reconnections are very frequent. Hopefully they've improved that somewhat. It has been a little bit since I've played, but when I was full go in the game, it was very, very common that you get into an actual multiplayer match and you'd always be reconnected. Have to wait, and hopefully you reconnect, that is. And then pretty much the only other con that I can really touch upon is that sometimes, and this is going to be an experience-based thing, but the rarity of the cards is based upon kind of like a fringe on the card, and based upon, I guess, as like wear and tear on the card. I guess it's kind of what it's supposed to look like there. But the more worn the card looks is the more rare it is, and sometimes that can be kind of tough to distinguish between them, especially in those mid ranks between common and uncommon. The rares are a little easier to discern, but the commons and uncommons, sometimes they can be a little tough to understand which ones they are, and so I just wish that there would have been a slight difference or a marker on them, dots or something else besides just that fringe or edge to kind of let you know the value or rarity of that card.
Very cool. Okay, so now on to the Need or Greed. We'll give our rating. I feel if you're a CCG fan in any way, shape, or form, or a board game fan, Scrolls is absolutely a need. This game does the CCG concept with style. It does it really well, not to mention the fact that it does it with a new flair. So they've made enough changes to the formula, but yet kept the formula intact. It definitely makes it a need for me. How about you, Gallows?
Well, I'm going to have to agree. For me, it is definitely a need too. I think that the level of strategy that this game alone allows you to expand upon, whether with the deck building, the collectible aspect, as not only in addition to the spatial aspect of the board and the timing issues, it just brings it all together into a strategic geeks dream of what you can do with the possibilities. So for me, it is definitely a very, very high need.
Very cool. So we're very curious to see what you think as a viewer. Is it a need for you? Is this a game that you just have to have? Is it a must-have? Or is it, if you feel this is a great, it's a passable game that won't be bad if someone handed it to you, but it not necessarily on top of your list. Very curious. Put down in the comment section below. Let us know what you think. And also, if you have a game you'd like to see us cover on Need or Greed, we're going to be doing these going forward. Put that down in the comment section below, and we will go from there. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and we will see you guys next time.